Welcome to Bottom Up, a monthly podcast dedicated to issues and topics of interest to young lawyers in Wisconsin and beyond. I'm Emilio Villagale.
And I'm Kristen Hardy, and we're your hosts. This is the Bottom Up Podcast.
If you're a lawyer, you know the legal profession can be stressful. Am I right, Emil? Kristen? Oh, Emil and Kristen aren't here today. We decided to give them a break for the month of May. This is Joe Forward, Communications Director for the State Bar of Wisconsin. I'm also the editor of Wisconsin Lawyer Magazine, and I'm the producer of the Bottom Up Podcast. Occasionally, I'm a co-host, and today I'm the host. And I want to talk about lawyer wellness because it's May, and there are a lot of activities around lawyer well-being. It's Lawyer Well-Being Week at the beginning of May. There is Mental Health Awareness Month, I believe, is in May. Just thought it was a good time to talk about lawyer well-being and get some tips on what lawyers can do to reduce stress, get better sleep, and form better habits. Today, our guest is Amber Ault, and I'm really excited and happy to have a discussion with Amber. Amber manages the Wisconsin Lawyers Assistance Program, WisLAP, which offers confidential well-being support to the legal community. Amber has a lot of experience with therapy, social work, sociology. She's a prolific writer. You'll see her columns in Wisconsin Lawyer Magazine under the On Balance column. She has a really, really great article coming up in June. She also has a blog on WisBar called The Lawyer's Journey, where she discusses a lot of lawyer wellness issues. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, Joe. I'm happy to be with you today.
Well, we're happy that you're with us. I just want to get right into it, Amber. Why is everybody so stressed?
You know, you're right that everybody is very, very stressed. And so this is, I would say, endemic and part of an epidemic. And so if you're a lawyer listening to this and you're feeling stressed, I want to assure you that you're not alone in that. I think it's really important that we acknowledge that collectively we've been through some extraordinary experiences over the last 4 years, and they have changed us, and we are still recovering from the difficulties and challenges of the last 4 years. There's been a global epidemic. There have been various kinds of social upheaval. And so people are in a place now that's emotionally that's very different from where most of us were 5 years ago or 6 years ago. So if you're listening, you think back to where you were 2016, 2017, maybe even 2018, what your outlook on life was, what your outlook on the world was, what you did at the end of the day. We're in a very different place now. And so people are stressed because we have been under chronic stress, all of us collectively, for years, where many of us burned out. Many of us are suffering from decision fatigue. So I think mental health workers and wellness workers talk a lot about compassion fatigue, but we're also suffering from decision fatigue because for several years now, we've had to make little daily decisions that feel consequential. Should I wear a mask when I come into the building? That's not a decision we were making in 2017 or 2018, unless we were working in healthcare in highly, high risk factor ICU kind of situations. In a general sense, we're all stressed out because we've been under stress, and it's okay to acknowledge that. And we've come up with a lot of coping strategies, and some of them are very predictable human ways of responding to crises and stressful situations. The problem is that usually we get a break from it. EMS goes to a call, and then they take somebody to the hospital, and then they can relax. We've all been sort of in this situation now for years where we don't get that downshift. And so that's why everybody is so stressed.
Yeah. Okay. We talk about the general stress that everyone is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now you talk about lawyers specifically. What kinds of unique or specialized stress are they feeling as lawyers, as legal professionals?
Yeah. So,
What are the things you're hearing?
Yeah, here's what I'm hearing and here's what I'm seeing. So we've done a little bit of survey work, and I've I'm doing what I can to do a lot of listening. So I haven't been here a year yet. And so I know that it's been very important for me to really listen to lawyers. And we get feedback on presentations that I do, and we also have done some survey work in a couple of lawyering populations. And so one of the things that lawyers report is they're not sleeping. And that's a big deal in terms of brain health, in terms of focus, in terms of being able to think beyond survival mode. And so that was interesting to me when I recently had a data set from about 100, a lawyering shop that has about 100 attorneys in it. And the rates of disrupted sleep were through the roof. And that lines up with where we're at as a country, but I think lawyers, especially like lawyers in particular, because I'm focused on lawyers, are reporting this. So if you're a lawyer and you're not sleeping, you're not alone.
Yeah, and I mean, do you attribute that to sort of the general stress that you were talking about, and in addition to what lawyers are now facing in this current environment? Is that unique, or is it? I mean, how does that compare to 10 years ago?
That I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But I can tell you it's where we're at now.
Yeah.
It's where we're at now. So I want to talk about where we're at now because lawyers are sleep deprived. And, during the worst parts of the pandemic, we were all, and I think this is especially true of lawyers and other professionals, but we were all like the parts of our brain that everybody knows to be connected to fight, that classic pattern: fight, flight, freeze, sometimes fawn, like begging to begging. So which we'll talk about a little less. That's the amygdala. The amygdala was just like lit up, right? People couldn't stop looking at their phones. They could not stop looking at the news. They wanted to know what was happening. So for an attorney, how is what's happening going to affect me? How does it affect my area of practice? Is my courthouse going to allow us to go virtual, or is my courthouse going to require that I come in and risk my life to represent my clients? What about my clients? Am I going to risk my client's life by I'm supposed to represent them, but they're a person who has a fragile immune system? So all of these things are things that lawyers need to be thinking. Am I going to lose my practice? Like, what is going to happen? So in that state, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to be hyper aware of incoming information because humans in general want to have control over their environment. My impression of lawyers is they especially want to have control over their work. They want to have control over their case. They want to have control over their income, like all of the things, right? And so how do you do that? Well, particularly if you're cognitively inclined, you want information. And how do we get information now? How we get information now is different from how it was 30 years ago. Now we can barely put the phone down, right? Up, breaking news, right? So during the pandemic, this really escalated, I think, and it changed in many ways. It certainly changed the way people in my line of work do their work. I think it has had a significant impact on how lawyers do their work because we've needed to get more familiar with the digital tools, which have been helpful in many ways, but also that kind of work really keeps the brain lit up because we're looking at the screens all the time and we're doing less of the things that lawyers are doing less of the things they would be doing, like just the simple act of getting out of the chair and walking down the hall to consult with your colleague, or getting up and going to the conference room to talk to your client. Like getting up and moving was interfered with. And sleep took a very major hit because when people are sleep deprived, we say to them, what are you doing? If your bedtime is at 10, your theoretical bedtime is at 10 o'clock, what are you doing at 8? Well, at 8, I'm catching up on the news. I'm looking at what are you doing at 9? Well, I'm doom scrolling. What are you doing at 10? I'm checking the news. Like, horrible for sleep.
I mean, what you're saying is so true because just the other night I couldn't sleep, right? And what do? I grab my phone and I start looking at the news because I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And that's just, and then I'm not working on, okay, well, why don't you just go downstairs and grab a glass of water, or, do something other than start looking at your screen, which you do all day anyway. And so, yeah, it adds a new dynamic to interference.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hi, Russell Nicolay here with Nicolay Law, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you have clients that have been injured, my office would love the opportunity to help them get compensated and get their life back on track. We handle referrals and co-counsel relationships on injury cases all across Wisconsin.
State Bar of Wisconsin members have access to affordable insurance plans, including term life, accident, critical illness, and accidental death and dismemberment. Coverage is issued by the Prudential Insurance Company of America. 4 plans for your financial future from one trusted source. For more information, visit wisbar.memberenroll.com.
Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
So we have these sleep deprivation. We have these challenges. What do you do about that? How do you get over that? How do you move away from those habits, or try and improve your sleep habits?
Yeah. So I think I just want to say, this is one way that the current stressors are expressing themselves among lawyers. There are some others. Overwork, which is also connected to the sleep deprivation, which we want to talk about in a minute. So again, when our amygdala is activated, our nervous system is activated, we're going to try to do what we think is going to keep us safe. And in this hyper-information age, we think that's information. But the information that you saw at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. is probably not a heck of a lot different from the information you saw at 7 o'clock. And you already saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still there.
Yeah.
These
Just a
two
different story,
These
yeah.
two are still running for president. Okay. There's nothing that really happened that you need to know about aside from nasty weather. Like weather is is increasingly a risk to us, right? So I want to say, this is all. So the message I'm trying to convey here is that it's our nervous system having gotten activated and not having downregulated. I mean, I don't know about you, but in the mid 90s, if I needed to go to sleep, I was reading a book. There's a book on the bedside table. And if I woke up in the middle of the night, well, maybe I'll read another page, and I'm dropping off again.
Yeah.
Right? A book does not. This is what we tell people. If you are awake in the middle of the night, do not lie in bed, toss and turn. Do not look at your phone in your bed. Get up, read a book until you start to nod again, and then go back to bed, right? So overworking, which attorneys are inclined to do, is a way of trying to calm the nervous system. Oh, I'll work harder. That doesn't calm the nervous system, right? Getting more information in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, that doesn't calm the nervous system. So name of the game here is figuring out ways of hacking that downregulation of the nervous system. So what are we going to do about it? And I know it's a big ask, right? So I'm going to give you tiny tips here. One thing you can do, turn your phone onto grayscale.
What's that?
It's a way of shifting your phone settings so that it is not colorful.
Yeah.
Because we like color. I'm wearing something colorful today. We like beautiful colors. We like it because it gives us that oh, that's interesting, right? But we don't want interesting when we're trying to sleep. What we want is soothing. So grayscale. So of course, why do they push out so many colorful, moving little pieces of? Why is TikTok? It's short, it's active, it's animated. It's not all animation, but it's animated movement. And it's colorful. So turn the phone onto grayscale. So it's less oh, I got to watch that.
Yeah.
A little less squirrel and a little more turtle.
Yeah.
In terms of how the phone is as an object, right? So that's one thing you can do, just in general. We always tell people to do this. Sometimes people listen. Stop the screens 2 hours before your bedtime. That's just it. If you can stand putting them in another room, put them in another room. I got an old plug-in phone, so that because I'm kind of a safety freak, and so I want to know that I can reach a phone
Yeah.
if there's a reason to reach a phone. So I've got a cordless phone that I can put next to the bed, and I can use that if I have to call 911. I do not need to have my smartphone next to the bed. What I need is a book next to the bed, and a glass of water, and a phone. Alarm clock. Get an old alarm clock. Like the 20th century had some things to recommend it, including
Yeah.
like we did have ways of waking up.
Yeah. I do have the old school alarm clock.
Yeah, so use your alarm clock, put your phone on grayscale, let it charge in another room. If it's a safety issue, get a plug-in wall phone, and you can find them cheap. But that way, like if it's a safety issue, okay, I can always call 911 on this phone as opposed to my cell phone. Plus, they work better in a, if the satellites go out or whatever, you've got another phone as a backup. So get off the phone or the screen, any screen. Even if it's like, oh, I'm watching whatever on, streaming 2 hours before bedtime, don't do that. Start reading. The ideal thing is to go outside and let the light change and let the night sounds come up. So this is what's ideal. There's an interesting intervention for people who have extreme sleep deprivation, which is go camping for 3 nights.
Yeah.
Better than Ambien, truly, which is addictive and has side effects and all the things. So, but it's getting your circadian rhythms in line with what's going on out in the world. So if you can go camping, go camping. But otherwise, go grayscale, come off the phone or the laptop or stop the work at least 2 hours before you try to go to bed. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't look at the phone. Have a plan for what you're going to do. For a lot of people, a lot of my clients in various places wake up at 3 a.m. There's a whole bunch of us who are up at 3 for whatever reason. So, and I think there's some biochemical reasons for that. But if you're awake at 3, give it 5-10 minutes. Do square breathing, which is a thing I can teach you today, Joe, if you want, or people can look it up. Square breathing, box breathing. If you're not back asleep in 12-15 minutes, get up, because the brain makes an association with your bed and what's going on there. So beds should only be for sleep and sex. They should not be for scrolling on your phone. They should not be for watching TV. So you get up, you go downstairs, you have your glass of water, you open your book, you get a little tired, or you do an adult coloring book, or you write in your journal, or you do whatever until you get sleepy again, and then you go back to bed. So that you're not like activating that amygdala, which is like, they did what today in Gaza? They did what today they did what today in parts of the world that are inflamed? We don't have to go there at 3 a.m. And first thing you do when you wake up, don't check the news when you wake up. Give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
Give yourself a chance in the morning.
Let me ask you this. These are all really great tips, but I think there's a lot of lawyers out there who can be stubborn and kind of fixed in their ways. And they say, this lawyer wellness stuff, not buying it. I scroll the news till 11. I'm up at 4. I don't get much sleep. I'm fine. I'm fine. This is how I practice law. But is there something they're missing? I mean, what can happen if you continue to do that year after year after year? Will it ultimately catch up with you? I mean, what do you say to the attorneys out there who just kind of don't buy into their, the idea of lawyer wellness, or they're workaholics? That's how they've always been.
Right. So for better or for worse, I'm a sociologist first and a clinical mental health worker second. I have a skeptical approach to the lawyer wellness. Now, hold on before we all panic, right? We have to understand, though, it is really important not to blame the individual for the stress that they are under, right? So there's a way in which, like, if we all just do square breathing, that'll fix our problems. That will not fix the systemic problems. Now, as a sociologist, I'm the first person to tell you that we have to be very cautious about anything that looks like victim blame. And I can hear the lawyers going, "I'm not a victim." Well, the institutional situation is such that lawyers are carrying an inordinate load. And how much do we add on until you break? I'm very interested in not seeing lawyers get broken by these systems. And so the idea of I think we have to put this idea of lawyer wellness in the context of recognizing the inordinate weight of what lawyers are carrying. And so why not use every tool available to you to keep yourself in the game as long as you can? And that requires some things like the physical training of it.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Created by Wisconsin lawyers in 1986 to protect the financial future of lawyers like themselves and the clients they serve, WisLAP continues to demonstrate a leading commitment to Wisconsin's legal community. No company is more trustworthy than WisLAP when you're facing a legal malpractice claim. Put your trust in your premium with an insurance company that supports Wisconsin legal associations and events. WisLAP, insuring and supporting the legal community since 1986. State Bar of Wisconsin members have access to affordable insurance plans, including term life, accident, critical illness, and accidental death and dismemberment. Coverage is issued by the Prudential Insurance Company of America. 4 plans for your financial future from one trusted source. For more information, visit wisbar.memberenroll.com.
Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up podcast.
I'm going to interrupt myself and tell the story. Years ago, I was training for a long distance triathlon. I was training for Ironman.
Wow.
Which is crazy, right? Okay, so, but I was like, I want the training. I want the idea of discipline. I want the idea of the structure. And when you train for a long distance athletic event, so I learned a lot about training. And one of the things I learned is that the 4th discipline in triathlon is rest.
Yeah.
So you push your body as far as it can go before you're over this edge where you injure yourself and can't go any further. You stay under that limit and you get to it, and then you pause. And that might be a week's worth of rest. That might be 10 days worth of rest before an event. That might be, and so you're cycling, but that rest is crucial. And if you don't get it, you are not going to get to your event.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that lawyers are in the game, like they're constantly training for something, right? They're constantly training for this next case. They're constantly preparing for this next case. And part of the training has to be, I have to keep my brain together. I have to keep my amygdala in a place where when it's game on, I'm game on. But when the game is off, the game has to have pauses in it so that your brain health is protected. Like, why would anybody just go until they fall apart?
Right.
Or go until they blow up? I mean, you take your car in for an oil change. You pay somebody to cut your grass. This is not woo-woo. This is not like square breathing, which I'm teaching all over the place all the time. The Navy SEALs do it.
Really?
Yeah, they have to learn how to do it, and they do it all the time, and they practice it all the time. You know, Harvard recommends it. The Navy SEALs do it. Don't lawyers? I mean, this idea of the Rambo lawyer. Okay, you want to be Rambo? Rambo trained. Rambo gets to sleep.
Right, he was a Green Beret.
You know, exactly.
Well, what is square breathing?
Square breathing. You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you about square breathing. Square breathing, which again is endorsed by empirical research at Harvard, done by the Navy SEALs. 4 breaths. That's all I'm asking, and I can teach you an even shorter version of it in a minute. But it's 4 breaths. Each breath has 4 segments, so that's why it's like a box, right? Each segment is 4 beats, like a measure of 4/4 music. The segments go inhale, hold your breath, exhale, and rest. And in that rest, you're neither inhaling nor exhaling. You're just pausing, and then you do it again. So let me walk you through it.
Okay.
All right. So if you're listening to this, do it with us, all right? So just inhale like you normally do, Joe.
Okay.
And then exhale like you normally do, and I'll walk you through it. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and rest, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And rest, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And rest, 2, 3, 4. Last time. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And rest, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's 4 breaths, I think.
Wow.
How does that feel?
It's like a sense of calm kind of comes over you. You just feel like the weight of things have kind of just shifted a little bit. Wow, that's amazing.
Good. Yeah. So do that 4 times a day. So again, another square, like 8, noon, 4, and 8. I have people do this. And the reason you do it 4 times a day is like 4 times a day, you're getting a tiny dose of this calming effect. So you're supporting your nervous system. And over the course of time, I've had people come back after a week or after 10 days and have had shocking improvements in their blood pressure, shocking improvements in their ability to like deal with incoming stuff. I mean, this is why the SEALs use it.
And it probably did.
It probably did. Yeah, no, that's what happens. I mean, that's square breathing. And so you don't have to pay the pharmaceutical company for it. You don't have to sit in front of a guru. So I have people do this. Like, for example, if I've worked with doctors, train them on this, they will often do it before they go into a patient encounter. I've had lawyers can do it in court. Nobody knows you're doing it.
Mhm.
Nobody knows you're doing it. So you can do it with your eyes open. You can do it while you're I do it when I'm in traffic, when I'm like waiting around. Like, so you do it 4 times a day on a schedule, in part to calm your nervous system. Again, we're getting that amygdala to like get re-regulated. But also then you can do it when you start to notice yourself getting agitated, riled up, angry, whatever it is. And so I notice for myself, if I get startled by something, I will inhale. But because I've done enough square breathing, now I can say, okay, hold it. 2, 3, 4. And I can do a round of square breathing. And I don't have to like, there's something we talk about in therapy called window of tolerance. So it's like that place where, like, not all stress is bad. Lots of stressful stuff is really good stuff, right?
Mhm.
But we can there's this sweet spot where excitement turns in, like you want to stay on the excited side of something rather than on the anxious side of something. And so square breathing can help us be like, okay, I'm a little ramped up because I'm excited, but I can my nervous system can manage that. The other piece about the square breathing is the more you do it, the more it's there for you as a resource. Like, oh, I can do that. Okay, this judge is saying something, or okay, opposing counsel is being, unfriendly, or whatever it is. You can do your square breathing, but it also brings you back to the present moment. And again, this is not some like woo-woo guru kind of thing. Being in the present moment is the best anxiety antidote that we have, because anxiety is almost always forward looking.
Mhm.
What's my client going to say? How am I going to pay my bills? Am I going to lose my office? Is my partner unhappy with me? Are we going to have a conversation? Like, am I going to have a meeting? Right. So like I'm sitting here with you, Joe, and I really enjoy working with you, and we're in this lovely room, and we've got this beautiful like wooden wall backdrop down here in the war room in the state bar. And so I can be totally present with you, or I can be thinking about the meeting I've got at 1:00,
Mhm. Mhm.
like, and I know this from years of teaching, and we'll talk about how Americans are especially future oriented. So some cultures are past, so European cultures tend to be oriented toward the past. Oh, it's tradition. They've been around a while. This is how we do things. Americans are like, what are we doing next?
Mm-hmm.
Asian cultures often tend to be very present in this, what are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Right? And so there are cultural pieces to, and kind of national pieces to this. So when I was teaching, I used to talk to students about this, and I would say to them, how many of you are thinking right now about getting out of this class in half an hour and what you're going to do this afternoon? And everybody, and I don't hold it against them. This is how we are wired. We are very future oriented, but so is anxiety.
Right.
So when you do a round of square breathing, you're focused on your breath and you're focused on counting, and we're right here. And the truth is, when we can pay attention to what's happening right now, most of the time, nothing is happening.
Right.
Most of the time, nothing bad is happening. But we can be very attuned to what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen with the election, what's going to, but if we can tune into the present, hey, Joe, it's just you and me sitting here talking.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Created by Wisconsin lawyers in 1986 to protect the financial future of lawyers like themselves and the clients they serve, WisLAP continues to demonstrate a leading commitment to Wisconsin's legal community. No company is more trustworthy than WisLAP when you're facing a legal malpractice claim. Put your trust in your premium with an insurance company that supports Wisconsin legal associations and events. WisLAP, insuring and supporting the legal community since 1986.
Hi, Russell Nicolay here with Nicolay Law, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you have clients that have been injured, my office would love the opportunity to help them get compensated and get their life back on track. We handle referrals and co-counsel relationships on injury cases all across Wisconsin.
Thank you. And now back to the Bottom Up Podcast.
It's ironic that we are in the war room.
Right.
There's another room called the peace room. Maybe we should have been in there. That is a really great tip. It's the breathing. It's such a small thing that I can see it making such a big difference, especially over time.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're working on some WisLAP swag for this coming year. And I want to get little square stickers that people can put on their water bottle, they can put on their laptop, just as a reminder. I mean, this is a very small, it's just 4 breaths. That's all I'm asking for. But I've had people have remarkable shifts because of it. I will tell you about a practice I just heard about this morning. It's even tinier, and it's called Stop, Breathe, Tap. This thing takes 3 seconds. And the strategy is when you're going into a situation you expect to be a little difficult, or you're already in a situation it's a little difficult, you say to yourself, stop. So you stop. You take a breath, and then you take 2 steps. I just tapped my feet on the floor, and that's it. But you're pausing, you're having a breath, and you're getting physically grounded, right? And so the person who was talking about this was a physician who's dealt with a lot of stressful situations, and she realized she had to do her own thing to kind of, again, downregulate. And this was a strategy that somebody taught her. So it's saying to yourself, stop, breathe, tap. So it's even shorter than the 4 breaths, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little reset. So back to lawyers and their sleep. So we've talked about some things they can do, recognizing that overwork is a symptom of people being burnt out. So you have to try going back to the 8-hour day, try going back to the 10-hour day, getting some boundaries around where the work stops, doing this downregulation stuff, getting movement in. I know we've got a colleague who there's a pretty big parking lot here, right? And so I was like, I need to start leveraging this parking lot because, like lots of people during the pandemic, my level of physical activity really dropped off.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, even if I'm just parking in the back 40 of the parking lot and walking into the building, that's giving me an extra 2 minutes of movement every day. So I've started to do that. And I know we've got another colleague who's religious about like parking as far away from the door
Yeah.
as possible. So tiny, tiny hacks, but we've been doing a lot more lots of us have been doing a lot more sitting. So figuring out like how to stand up every so often, like tiny little things that ultimately affect your sleep. If you're moving more, you're going to sleep better. If you're outside more, you're going to sleep better. If you're off the screen because you're not going to work 14-hour days anymore, pare it back a little bit, because the benefit you get from the sleep is better focus, greater optimism, not just dragging through the day quite so much. So these are, anyway, why are we stressed out? We're stressed out because the situation has been stressful, but also some of the coping mechanisms that a lot of us have used have not made it better. They've made it worse.
Yeah. Well, Amber, these tips have been really great. I hope that we can have you on more consistently to talk about these things, because I know there's a lot more to, all of this. And this is just one piece of it. I know you have an article coming out in June in Wisconsin Lawyer Magazine that talks about isolation, suicide, and very important issues that I hope we can talk more about. But before I let you go, I do want you to talk a little bit about the WisLAP program for those who may not know what it offers and what the program is about, and any events that you may have coming up in the near future.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So WisLAP has been around for, I think this is the 29th year, so almost 30 years. Mostly it has been staffed by licensed clinical social workers and supported by a team of lawyer volunteers who are ready to offer support to colleagues who may need additional support. We do, I used to say 3, now I'm going to say 4. We do 4 things. One is on a regular basis, we just talk to lawyers who are calling about various concerns they have. And some of those concerns may be related to stress. Lots of those concerns are related to stress. Some of them are related to depression, anxiety. I've had folks call about marital concerns, because obviously when lawyers are under stress, marriages are under stress. We've had people call to consult about a concern that they have about a mental health need for a child, and they want to talk to an expert about that. So people do call if they're struggling with a substance issue, or they've got something going on that they're concerned is going to affect their career in such a way they don't want to be in front of the Office of Lawyer Regulation. They want to get ahead of it, and they know that we operate under a Supreme Court rule that says that any call to us is protected through very tight confidentiality, and also that any member of the WisLAP, I struggle with this, WisLAP staff. I'm always saying WisLAP. Maybe WisLAP would be a good program. We could do stand-up night, WisLAP. But all of volunteers operate under that Supreme Court rule, and they also have immunity. So if a lawyer calls and says, I've gotten myself into some trouble here, I know what I'm doing is really, risking my career, or maybe it's something that's beyond the law, they can tell us that, and I'm not going to call the OLR. Our support team of the volunteers are not going to call the OLR. Like, there's immunity, and if they were a legal case that involved them, we are immune.
Nothing
being
is
involved
said
with that.
It can be used
That's right.
in any way.
That's right. And so lawyers call us because of that. And I think they also call us because it's hard to find a mental health worker, right? And so sometimes people call and say, I know I need to be in therapy, and I need to be in therapy with somebody who's trauma-informed or does this kind of work or that kind of work. And my role sometimes is screening therapists for them. And this is something I've kind of invented. And I'm like, let me do some of that for you. I'm paid to be here. Your time, you go do your lawyering for a couple days. Let me make some phone calls, and then call me again in 2 days, and I'll have a short list of people who are accepting clients and have the skills that you need, right? So this is the first thing that we do is, like, people call us. We help them the best we can. We sometimes do short interventions. We sometimes refer them we build a support system for them by working with volunteers. referral to professionals, whatever, this kind of stuff. So that's number one. Number two, if somebody has gotten into a difficult situation and they are in front of the OLR, or the BBE has questions and thinks a person should be conditionally admitted to the practice of law, then they entrust us to help that attorney through that process. So we're involved with those monitoring programs. Third, we do educational content like this, writing for Wisconsin Lawyer. We've got a new blog launched in Mental Health Month here,
The Lawyer's
which is called
Journey.
The Lawyer's Journey.
Yes, I love it.
So check out The Lawyer's Journey. And then next week, May 31st, we still have some chairs for you, dear listener. May 31st here in Madison at the State Bar, live in person. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers for a seminar we're calling Mental Health Literacy for Lawyers. And that's not a wellness program. That's helping lawyers understand the mental health situations of others. So if you didn't get the crash course in mental health in terms of how it plays out for your client or in the courtroom or in litigation, mediation, whatever, come that day. We have, again, I'm so proud of this seminar, and Pinnacle very kindly has given us a mental health awareness month discounted rate on the tuition. So it's an all-day seminar. People can come. You can get your LAUs done for this accreditation cycle.
LAU, that's Lawyer Awareness and
Awareness,
Understanding.
yep.
You can get up to 6 credits for that, right?
Yep. And you can get them all in one day in a room that has just some incredible experts. So you can find that the registration for that on the State Bar website. So that's the third thing we do. And then the fourth thing is, as necessary, sometimes people call us about really interesting mental health needs that I haven't thought about. Like somebody recently called about the mental health needs of juries and asked us to help line up some resources. And I'm like, I haven't thought about that before, but we'll roll up our sleeves. So, so it's like happy to consult with lawyers and other legal judges and other legal professionals about these kinds of questions that come up.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
And that's great. I think it's really important to stress the confidentiality of it, because I think that part of the reason people may not reach out when they need to is because they think that, oh, it's the State Bar, people are going to find out that I'm having these problems or issues, but that is not the case.
No, it's really, it cannot be overemphasized. I mean, somebody asked me this question the other day. Like attorneys, I mean, attorney-client privilege is sacred, right? And counselor-client privilege is sacred. And there are, 2 instances where where we have to break that confidentiality. And that is if something is imminent. And for me, imminent is not like, well, theoretically, someday I might hurt myself or I might end my life. We're talking like in the next hour, I'm concerned that you're going to hurt somebody or that you're going to attempt to end your life. Like this is imminent. But people talk to me about their suicidal thoughts all the time. I have a really high tolerance for this because I spent years doing crisis work. And so we do not break somebody's confidence unless there is like truly a life or death situation. So there are these moments where, just like attorneys, I mean, an attorney would need to do that.
Sure.
If they thought their client was, on a parking garage and about to jump, they would need to do something, right? So there are those moments. But somebody calling because they're struggling with alcoholism, or somebody's starting to have intrusive thoughts about ending their life, like this is normal stuff for us. And so we do everything we can to protect that relationship and that trust. And so we want attorneys. The biggest challenge I think that I've noticed in the role of WisLAP is often attorneys don't call soon enough. Or they think, well, compared to my clients, my problems are small. Or they minimize what they're going through. They're like, I can handle it, I can hold it. And they do. I mean, and I have so much respect for attorneys, but folks need to know, like, you can call before it is life or death. You can call before you're at the end of your rope. You can call beforehand, like call earlier rather than later. I had a car once die of oil starvation. It was so frustrating. I had the oil changed, right? But the reason, and I was not advised that this particular kind of car was known for this. Oh, once they're a certain age, you have to check the oil every 500 miles, not every 300 miles. But you have to know the car, right? But the point is, you change your oil on the regular. Like, get a checkup. Call, ask. Oh, like sometimes people call and say, oh, I'm worried about my drinking. I don't know if this is a problem. It's Wisconsin. I don't know what is problem drinking. Okay, so we have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Nobody's calling the OLR about somebody.
Right.
Like,
right.
And I love the OLR, all due respect, right? I mean, so I have positive working relationships with them, but people need to know that this it's mostly a one-way street, right? They will send folks to us and we will work with them. But somebody calls, this is where it stops.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Amber, thank you so much for coming on and giving lawyers some great tips on, improving their sleep, improving their anxiety, and trying to reach some calmness during the day. If there's stressors out there, I look forward to having more discussions with you. I just wanted to say, I think that the State Bar is really lucky to have you, and the members are especially lucky to have someone like you looking out for them. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Joe. I'm very happy to be part of this team and to serve Wisconsin's lawyers.
Thanks, Amber.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to explore, let us know. I'm your host, Emil Ovia-Gale, and we'll catch you next time.